Lions right now are at the precipice. They're picking 28th this year. And from the next 3-4 years, we hope they pick from 28th to 32nd. We hope they pick 32nd. So you're not going to have high draft picks anymore. So now you're going to make your picks really count. And I don't know if a draft pick is worth it compared to a Hall of Famer that's in the wait, that has asked his team for a trade. I can't see how you don't go after this guy, and I'm talking about Myles Garrett.
Let me ask you, and I'm a piggyback Maz's question, because you and I talked about this last week, the Myles Garrett thing and how you felt about it. So let me add on to Maz's conversation. After watching the Super Bowl, does it change? And it doesn't have to be Myles Garrett. There are other guys that are on teams that you can go get, whether it's Trey Hendrickson, Max Crosby, potentially. After watching the Super Bowl and watching the dominance of the defense and how they were able to corral Patrick Mahomes, does it now have you like, maybe we need to get one of these guys?
Who did the Philadelphia Eagles give 2 first-round picks up for on their defense?
It's
a trick question. They didn't.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So
well,
there is nothing in the body of work of Dan and Brad that would suggest they are willing to give up multiple first-round pieces for a one-year player. Sure, we've seen our...
He's not a one-year player.
He's not a one-year.
You would have to sign him.
You
would have to sign him.
Okay. Well, so now there's another thing that we haven't seen happen.
I can answer your question. If you go on the offensive side of the ball, that happened. A.J. Brown.
Okay, but what did they give up for A.J.? Wasn't it just
2
one?
first rounds?
2? Is it? I thought it was
2
just
first
one.
rounds and then he signed. I could be wrong. I'll look it up.
I'm looking it up. That's an interesting thing. I didn't know that they had. I forgot about AJ, but you look at what this regime has done, and they aren't willing to give foreign players from the other 31 teams 3-year deals or longer. They're not breaking the bank for any incoming free agents. And they are not trading for guys that have to be on a large contract or on their last year of their deal. When you can get a guy locked in for 4, hopefully 5 years, because he's that good out of the first round, you can re-sign your great guys. You can work within the salary cap, and you can continue to add players that are going to be your foundation going forward. I'm really tired of this. This is the trade for Max Crosby, trade for Myles Garrett talk is on the same level as who's the GOAT, Pat or Joe
No,
or
it's not,
Tom.
because it's out there.
Well, I get
He's
that.
asked for a trade.
No, they're all out there. Then all of it's out there.
That's just
But the
that's
fact,
just opinion.
Okay, I get that, but do you really think that there is a number? This isn't going to be a Luka trade. Okay. They're not going to just talk to the Lions and say, "What do you want to give up?" Okay, we'll take it. They're going to take him to the highest bidder, and the highest bid on Myles Garrett will be too rich for Dan and Brad, based on how they've built this team so far.
Let me ask you another question, and Maz, you can jump in after this. Here we go. Maybe you don't go after a player like Myles Garrett. Maybe you don't go after Max Crosby, the guys that already exist, the guys you're going to have to pay buku bucks for and be opposite your Aiden Hutchinson, who you clearly want to be the identity of that defensive line. Fine. Do you bundle up a package to go get Mason Graham in the top 5, who's still going to be on a rookie contract? Now, Mason Graham, he's going to be the best defensive,
absolute
the best
menace.
interior.
He's a menace.
The best defensive interior guy in this draft. We saw what he did against Alabama. You saw what he did against Ohio State. He's projected right now somewhere between that 5 to 7 round. We've seen him package deals before to move up. Is this one?
It works better for your team. I know that Myles Garrett is the sexy name, and he is a Hall of Famer, future Hall of Famer, no doubt. But where you're getting him, what you have to give up, and then what you have to pay him.
So Mason Graham.
Because we've seen them do that twice.
Yeah.
We've seen them move up for J-Mo. We've seen them move up into that 12 spot twice using another first-round pick because they know, or they feel they know what they're getting based on their scouting, based on the fact that this kid's never been a pro, he's coming from college, and he fits our system, which your boy Graham, that's a Dan Campbell guy right there. But for me, I just don't see this team. Like, I've been reading all this stuff on Twitter about, well, you are a startup and now you're this, and it's like, come on, get out of here.
Yeah.
This is a long-term business company that hasn't seen success for 70 years. And I know that Lions fans hate hearing this from me, but when they sat down in that room 4 years ago, yes, they talked about Super Bowls, but more importantly, they talked about perennial playoff contenders. And that is, there's a real quick way to dry that up, and it's to trade for major players using your future draft capital. Just look where the Lakers are going to be when LeBron's gone.
Maz, I know you're up next. Just think about it like this, though. Before the season started, Brad Holmes as well as Dan Campbell at the podium, the whole training camp at the start of the season. What did they say the goal was this past season? Said it was Super Bowl.
Sure.
No, they said Super Bowl. They didn't even win a playoff game, Maz.
Rando Smalls on the chat, super chat. Thanks, Rando. Bottom line, do you give up 2 firsts and a third, or you let Brad draft those 3 picks? I'm going to mix it in with what Anson said. I would do it in a minute. And I would do it to get Myles Garrett, not another rookie. I'm sorry, not to get another rookie. I don't think you can move up into the top 5. I just don't. I believe you have a better chance of making a deal with the Browns, who don't have any first-round picks, but they do, but they gave up 3 of them to get Deshaun Watson. I believe that is your best bet. And the reason I'm saying this is because that window, it's open. You have a great team. But how long is it open? The other teams in your division are getting better. The Philadelphia Eagles are the world champs. The Rams are on the upswing. The 49ers, I think, will rebound. I believe Aaron Rodgers will go there and finish his career there, like I told you yesterday. I believe that he's going to go there and finish his career and get them back in the playoffs. The Bears are getting better. The Packers are getting better. The Vikings are getting better. You're a great team. You're 1 player away. Ryan said it yesterday. 1 player away. You saw how the Eagles won the Super Bowl. They won it on their defensive front. They won it. That's how you win it. You go out and get the best guy for the money, and it's Myles Garrett. Do I love Mason Graham from Michigan? Of course I do. And would I take him? Sure. But is he going to be Myles Garrett? We don't know. We already know that the gold jacket is going to Myles Garrett eventually. I don't say you fool around with anything. I say you go out and you get this guy.
Matt, what did the Eagles do 2 years ago?
They lost the Super Bowl.
Okay, and what did they do last year? They lost in the first round of the playoffs, correct?
They did.
Did they trade all their draft picks to go and get a $30 million guy?
No, they knew they were
they nailed their draft picks.
They nailed it that year with Davis.
Yeah.
They knew this is what we were missing for the Super Bowl. So that April, they went out and got Davis, and that won them the Super Bowl.
So technically,
I mean, go ahead.
no,
So yes, they did go out and get their guy.
they drafted Jordan the year
That they lost the Super Bowl.
Yeah, they drafted Jordan the year they lost, and then they went and got Carter.
Yeah.
Right.
Last year.
Carter.
To your point,
That's what I meant. Jalen Carter. I don't know why I'm always mixing them up.
Because
I didn't know who you're talking about. I'm like Googling.
Yeah. They drafted Jordan Davis,
bad.
13th overall. No, you're fine. 13th overall.
That's
and
what
then
I
the
meant.
following year,
Carter.
They took Jalen Carter.
And then signed Zach Bond, who was the
Free
number
agent.
1 IDP defender in football.
Yeah, that's a little-
151
that's a little bit of
tackles. Like Kenyon and Cooper, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so what I'm talking about is the way that this team has been built suggests nothing to prove that. There's nothing that suggests that these Lions are going to make a monster trade for a 1-year guy that they have to re-sign on an exorbitant contract. When there's 3 guys we just talked about last week that we may have to give up one of them. So to me, giving everything up for this 1-year opportunity is short-sighted, in my opinion. It is the desperate, burnt lover that Lions fans are. We are so greedy and so starved for a championship that we are willing to forego a 10-year future of excellence for that one player that supposedly puts us over the top. Listen, Myles Garrett isn't beating the Philadelphia Eagles. Probably isn't even beating the Commanders. I know you guys said last week that if Myles Garrett's on that line, we beat the Washington Commanders. I don't know that's true. All right? Now, a fully healthy team with Myles Garrett, certainly, I think we get by Washington. I just don't think that this Dan and Brad combo has shown us anything to suggest that they are breaking the house for a guy on an expiring contract.
Listen, we got another super chat.
Oh,
Fix your face. I'm no expert by any chance, but I would rather swing and miss on a trade for Garrett rather than draft. Our time is now. Thank you for that. Hey, look how close we are. That's all I got to say. Look how close we are.
I just feel like it's been built over 4 years, so I think that this is I don't want to call it experimental, but I feel like this is a good time to use the 46 in cap space, use the late draft picks that you have accrued because your team is a better team and you're not picking in the top 10. You know, man, and like I always say, maybe it's not Myles Garrett, but I'm saying, like, you better do something. Because if you see the quarterbacks that win Super Bowl, excuse me, let me not say it like this, when it's not Patrick Mahomes or not Tom Brady or it's not insert guy here, it's a defense that is unlike any other. And I think he is a piece, and if it's not him, you got to find something because defense, unpopular to contrary belief, they still win Super Bowl.
I haven't done my studying yet for the upcoming draft, and we'll start having our draft experts on.
This is O-line D-tack.
There's a lot of defensive tackles and also defensive linemen out there. I heard that there are a lot out there. That's all I know. But is there a Jared Verse out there? I don't know. Because they got him. The Rams got him. Automatic Rookie of the Year. And he made that defense what it is, man. Is there a Jared Verse out there? I don't know yet.
Not at the end of the first round.
My issue is this. This is the one issue that I have. You got to have guys that exude a little bit of dominance. You got to have guys that are different type of guys. When the Lions are struggling against the Washington Commanders, you got all these all-stars on offense. You know, you got all these. Who was the guy that was trying to corral these guys? Who was the big-name player or the energy? And sometimes it doesn't come from a big-name player. Sometimes it's not a Hall of Fame player. But who was the guy that was yelling at the defense? Like, who was the guy that was trying to get Jared Goff, who clearly said he hit his head, clearly was sitting on the bench and didn't know what the F was going on? Amon-Ra St. Brown, as much as he is as a leader, like, everyone was silent. And that comes with all-star, all-pro energy. Like, you got to have a guy that's been in the league. I know Myles Garrett only has one playoff win. He's only been to 2 playoffs. But it's the energy above all. It's not the Super Bowl energy, and I need you to have that experience. And, hey, in this moment, what is it like? Nah, it's just somebody saying, yo, what's up? What we going to do? We here. We made it. Are we resting on the fact that we made it? Are we, you know what I'm saying? Like, they didn't have that. And I think Myles Garrett or whoever else can provide that. If you go through the draft, now you have another bunch of kids coming in at 21 that are looking for guidance. Who's that guy that's going to guide them?
I mean, to me, it's Aiden Hutchinson. I don't have an issue with him being the leader at all. I don't have a problem with Jared Goff, non-concussed, being the leader either. A.J. Brown was acquired for the 18th pick overall as well as the 101. So extremely late supplemental third or the beginning of the 4th round.
Okay.
All right.
Fair.
That was in 2022. Since then, I don't know of any major trades that they've made. I look at this team, and they've done almost exact same thing that the Lions have. 2 years or a year ago, they make it to the Super Bowl just like we make it to the NFC Championship game. The next year, disappointing early end in the playoffs. Do they freak out and decide, hey, we're going to trade our future for this major guy? No, they basically gave up a first-round pick because they wanted a receiver with that number 18 pick. But they get a guy that they know is going to come in and produce. Obviously, first-round wide receivers don't have the same hit rate that first-round defensive tackles and defensive linemen seem to have. Yeah. So for me, the Lions, if you can find a trade where you can bring in a Trey Hendrickson and give up a first and a third or a fourth, let's do it. But when you're talking about the charge that's going to come to bringing Myles Garrett in versus the other 30 offers you're going to have from the other teams that are trying to acquire him, again, this isn't going to be a Luka, don't call anybody else, don't shop this player deal. They're going to shop the hell out of that kid, and they're going to find the best offer that they can find. Now, if we can somehow convince Brady or Cleveland's pretty influenceable, into taking a chance on a Hendon Hooker where you don't have to give up another first and you can do a first with a Hendon Hooker and maybe a third or something like that, I'm all in. I just don't think that's enough, Maz. Bray, I don't think that 2 first-rounders is even enough to get this kid. And for me, the track record of Dan and Brad, I don't want to take their picks away.
This is true. I mean, the track record of Brad has been really good in the first round. We've talked about the list of, all-star players that they have on that team, but there are some misses that they've had. And now that those picks are later in the draft, like, it's not the time to say, oh, we'll trust the draft picks and make it. There have been some late-round picks. Look at the draft last year. Now that the season's over, I understand Ennis Rakestraw was injured, but was he the pick? Terry and Arnold. Did we reach on Terry and Arnold because the school that he went to was Alabama and we had Branch and Gibbs and J-Mo? So, like, now it's like you had an okay draft last year. We got a couple players we wish we may have had. This is an interesting draft. Like, you can't afford to miss. And I just don't want to stake my future on some late picks and Brad's magic when there's players out there that we can do something for. So, it's a great conversation, and we'll see what happens. I think we'll know more in the next coming weeks, but the window's closed quick. Like, I feel like obviously the Eagles have had this stretch run, but they've had some period scenarios like, we got to rebrand and figure some things out. The 49ers, now the run has been, an 8-year run, if you will, but it's ending ugly.
And that's a team that has over and over traded future capital for big-time players. You look at the Philadelphia Eagles, and what they did this year was lean on the draft and bring in great free agents. Championship.
Yep. Howie Roseman is top of the line, GM. Brad Holmes is chasing him.
Yes, sir.
Also, all right, since we're going to add that in, I love that. Don't be afraid to add players based on what you think they might be there. Because Howie Roseman is going after dogs, monsters.
Yep.
Like, if we're gonna have some common ground, fine. Just do me a favor. Don't try to throw away players because, they might be this and they might be that. Your locker room is good enough now.
Yes.
Your culture is good enough now.
Amen.
Your culture can bring guys in and say, you know what? I like being here. I want to do the things necessary to become that type of player. Start looking at some other players. Hey, you know what? Let's get that guy Jalen Carter another. Let's give him another bring back. Hey, you know what? Let's bring in Kayvon Thibodeau. And I'm not using him because I like Ed Hutchinson. Just more so saying why they didn't pick